Good evening, everyone. Call the council meeting of December 2nd, 2019 to order. Are there any disclosures of interest? Seeing none, we're going to move into closed session tonight. We'll have that resolution. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that council meet in closed session under section 2392F of the Municipal Act 2001. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose. 33 Victoria Terrace, verbal update. Welcome, John. All in favor? And that's carried. Now we're now in closed session. Good evening, everyone. We'll move on with the rest of our agenda. Moved by Councillor Ritchie, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that a verbal update on 33 Victoria Terrace be received and legal counsel proceed as directed. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have adoption of the previous council minutes. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that the council meeting minutes of November 18th, 2019 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have Mr. Kurt Whitnall, NPI Board Chair, with the Niagara Power Incorporated financial statement. Welcome, Kurt.
I'll just give a bit of context to what we're doing tonight, because we're doing 2018 financial statements. And normally you would do these a little bit earlier, but there's a bunch of circumstances that would cause us to wait for that. And then we'll be appointing auditors for the coming term. Before I introduce Cameron Johnson, who's our auditor, is going to take you through the statements, I just wanted to call out to all the staff at Grimsby Power. Yesterday was a very, very tough day. Weather was bad. Ice build up here was really, really tough. A lot of downed trees, and I know that the crews there were working through the night until about 6 a.m. this morning, and then sent back out today just so we could all have heat and lights, etc. So tip of the cap to them. It's not just the line crews, it's the whole group taking upwards of 200 and 300 calls yesterday and then dispatching and getting things done. So thank you to all of them. So without further ado, I'll bring in Cameron. He's going to take you through the financial statements for NPI, Niagara Power, which is the holding company, and then we'll go on to the second piece of the business. Okay?
Can I close this? Okay. So good evening. Again, yes, my name is Cameron Johnson. I'm a partner with Millards. It's my pleasure tonight to present the consolidated statements for Niagara Power Incorporated for the year ended December 31st, 2018. Just for a point of reference, just to remind everybody, is Niagara Power is the holding company, and the only company that it actually holds is Grimsby Power. And because of the size of Grimsby Power, about 98% of the financial statement is actually Grimsby Power on a consolidated basis. Most of the information is GPI rather than NPI. The auditor's report is on page 1. I believe everyone has a copy of the financial statements. The auditor's report's on page 1 and 2 of the financial statements. I'll just highlight the opinion, and we have audited the consolidated financial statements of Niagara Power Incorporated, the entity, which comprised the consolidated statement of financial position as of December 31, 2018, and the consolidated statements of comprehensive income, changes in equity, and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the consolidated financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. And the opinion is, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the entity as at December 31, 2018, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with international financial reporting standards. Just very quickly, is the town itself follows what's called public sector accounting standards. This is an incorporated entity. It doesn't have the ability to follow public sector accounting standards. It doesn't have the ability to follow accounting standards for private enterprises, which most small businesses follow. So we are committed to doing international financial reporting standards. So the statements themselves essentially kind of look like the public sector statements in a sense, similar to a business, but the notes to the financial statements are significantly more involved. On page 3 of the financial statements is a consolidated statement of financial position. So this represents our assets and liabilities of the entity for the year. And you can see on a consolidated basis, again, mostly Grimsby Power Incorporated, our total assets are $36.336 million compared to $36 million from the year before. We'll highlight briefly, is one of the large assets in here related to just NPI is the due from related parties, and that's a almost $1.4 million. That's the balance of the loan related to the loan to Grinsby Energy on these financial statements. Liabilities in the year, our current liabilities, you can see are $5.1 million compared to $4.7 million in the year. Long-term liabilities, mostly debt, and then also our deferred liabilities and deferred revenue. Deferred revenue is income that has been received that is not yet allowed to be recorded as income because there's some type of performance that is required. So it's sitting as a liability. And then our long-term debt, total liabilities, $24.7 million. And then our equity and retained earnings and our regulatory balances. They're a little bit different. Regulatory balances are very specific to the hydro company, Grimsby Power, and it ties to a timing difference between billings and expenditures or collections and when you can recognize income. Page 4 to the financial statements just highlights very briefly is our changes in equity. And you can see in the current year on these consolidated financial statements, we actually had a loss of $233,211 compared to income last year of $924,666. And then it's showing the dividend here paid to the town of $462,307 in 2018 related to 2017. The next page is our statement of income, comprehensive income. And you can see, again, most of this is Grimsby Power Incorporated. Total income in the current year, you can see a $30,602,000 compared to $29,000. Our cost of our power, $24 million. So our income after cost of power is $6,015,000. We have our corresponding expenses for an income before the undernoted items. You can see of $962,000 compared to $1,030,000 from the year before. And then the one big number on here, again related to NPI, is the loan to Grinsby Energy. During the year, there was an allowance set up for that loan of $1 million. So it was almost $2.4 million on the financial statements at the end of the year. It's been valued at $1.4 million. So this is the corresponding write-down of that amount. So that gives us a loss before our taxes of $37,783. And then the recognition of our current provision for income taxes, as well as our deferred income taxes, $195,000. So overall, we end up with a loss of $233,211 on the financial statements in the current year. I won't highlight the rest. The rest is the consolidated statement of cash flows. Again, this is the sources and uses of cash for the year. This is quite similar to what you'd see with the town set of financial statements. And overall, we've had a use of cash of $22,739, and we've gone from $64,000 in cash down to $42,000 in cash at the end of the year. And then the notes to the financial statements, significant difference between this and the town. I think the town, you would see probably about 8 pages of notes, maybe 10 pages. You can see in this case we have over 25 pages, 26 pages worth of notes. They're pretty well standard with international financial reporting standards. There's a significant amount of accounting policies, a significant amount of estimate notes that are in place. And I think that's it for the statements. There was also a report provided to the board. There was a report to the members of the board, and it just highlighted a couple of quick points. And it dealt with management's responsibility for the financial statements. That's in the auditor's report as well. And the key is that management is responsible for the financial statements. We look to getting a representation from management at the conclusion of the audit. Again, this is on a consolidated basis. And that was done. We dealt with the valuation. And then just a couple of other quick points on this. It dealt with materiality on the financial statements. For the consolidated basis, the materiality on these is actually set by the town's auditor because these statements are brought into the town's financial statements. And overall, the adjustments related to the year end for this company deals with intercompany transactions. They get eliminated on these financial statements, as well as any dividends, accounts receivable, payables, et cetera, because we're consolidating the entities. I guess overall, that's it for the financial statements. Can I ask through the mayor if there's any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Johnson. I see Councillor Barty.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not an accountant, so this is challenging a little bit, but I guess what I want to know is how do you pay a $400,000 dividend when you've got a net loss of $233,211?
The dividends actually derived from the year prior, okay, related to Grimsby Power. So the dividend was declared
The dividend came from 2017.
from 2017, okay, and it deals with the dividend policy between the town and Grimsby Power or Niagara Power, as far as it is determined,
Okay.
similar to 2018 as well.
So I guess what I'm wondering, was there any way to kind of foresee what sort of bad financial position you'd be in before you paid out that dividend? Like, wouldn't you pay out less of a dividend at some point, or is it just not, you're not able to predict those things?
No, and I understand, there is a dividend policy that is in place, and it deals with a percentage of net income for the year. And then after that point, though, then it's a determination of what can be paid out as far as standards required.
So maybe just to add some texture to your question. So the $400,000 dividend was declared based on 2017 results, so earlier on. When we got to 2018, I'm thinking back a few months back now. Grimsby Power is in here, and they talked to you about the state of the balance sheet and cash flow, et cetera, with Grimsby Power. You'll recall that at that time we said a dividend would not be declared based on 2018 results. And so to your question, were we not aware? I think it's fair to say, as this new board's wrapped its arms around these financials and got a deeper understanding of what's going on with this company, what we understood was that Grimsby Power was cash strapped. We were right up against our lending limits, and to declare a dividend would have required us to go out and borrow money, which is a no-no. So just based on good solid management, no dividend was declared, and you know, the real goal right now is to get this balance sheet propped back up to where it needs to be. Okay?
Thank you. Councillor Bain?
Kurt, I may need you for this one as well, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just have two questions. I'm looking at all these numbers, and that's great. As Councillor Vardy said, we're not accountants by any means, so please bear with my ignorance here if I'm sounding that way. I see that you have a number here, total assets and regulatory balances of 36 million. Is that a valuation number? Is that what NPI is worth?
No, this is literally assets that are on the books of the financial statements. So we have, you can see here, right in the middle, we have $27,849. That's property, plant, and equipment.
Okay.
So that's the net book value of basically the wires that are, for the most part, wires, et cetera, for accounting, right? That's the utility.
Okay.
So that's property, plant, and equipment of pretty well of Grimsby Power that are on the financial statement. It has nothing to do with valuation. That's their original cost minus a depreciation value.
All right.
Okay.
My next question related to Councillor Vardy's question. Are we going to be seeing a dividend for 2019, do you think? And I see you nodding your head there, Kurt.
No, I don't know if you were here or not for the Grimsby Power update that Phil Bestling did with
Yes, I was, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so at that point, similar to this question, we said there would not be a dividend based on 2018 results.
Okay, so we're still in the same boat this year as we were?
Yeah, it hasn't changed. No, for 2018.
No, I'm talking 2019. Are we, would you,
we
I'm asking.
haven't closed the books yet. I mean, I don't want to speculate, so we got to get that far.
Yeah.
So once we get to that far, we'll be back and give you a refresh on 2019 results, but tonight's about 2018.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Okay.
you very much, both of you.
Thank you. Councillor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan, and not going to reiterate about not being accountants, because not, but when I see a lot of numbers, I look at the highs and lows, and I just questions are why, how come one's higher in 2017 to 2018? Couple questions. The town of Grimsby received $262,537 in regards to the promissory note. Is there anything, did we receive anything for 2018 from the promissory note?
Whereabouts are you seeing that on the statements?
I'm on page 27, under notes 14, related party transactions.
So, Miora?
Since 2000,
You have to,
the interest on the promissory note was paid since 2001 each year. And yes, it was paid the 262,537, and we pay for the interest 6.4 million almost from 2001. So the promissory note, it's a must. So we are paying each year.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Did we receive it this year, though? Because it just says 2017 in the report. That's why I was asking.
We are paying on July the 1st half of the amount, and on January we pay the other half. So we send a check always to Steve Gruniger about the promissory note. So yeah, we pay.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I just didn't see it in the report. I don't know if this is the right place to ask the question, but when I was reading through all this, I'm thinking, when we had our cogen operating, and when it was generating electricity back to the grid for only short spans of time, I believe we were getting 1 to 2 cents a kilowatt. Would that show up anywhere in the financials? I don't know. I'm just trying. Maybe I'm a little bit. Just a thought. That's all. Okay, so that'll show up on their GEI's financials? Okay, all right. After all these years, sorry, Kurt, I'm still confused. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Dunstall?
Thank you. I had a couple questions too, thank you. But that one that Councillor Cadwell asked about, the cogen was owned by the town, and we sold the energy back to the grid, which would not be Grimsby Energy, but be Grimsby Power, would it not? That would be Grimsby Power that was paying us. Yeah, I think it is Grimsby Power. It's not Grimsby Energy. Yeah. Grimsby Energy gave us the cogen many years ago. It's that. Well, yeah, well, indirectly.
A few years ago, it was decided by the town to sign an agreement with the retailer. I don't know from the top of my head who is the retailer, but it's not with Grinsby Power.
Oh, interesting. Okay, something else we didn't know. All right. So, my other question, sorry, but I was very interested in that. I thought it was Grimsby Power that was paying that bill. In the body of these audits is a draft of a Grimsby Power Incorporated annual general meeting for 2017. It needs to be in there. It's not signed or anything. It says a draft. So what's the merits of that?
We would be, what we're doing right now is having the annual general meeting for Niagara Power for year ended 2018. When you have an AGM, you need to bring forth the minutes from the previous. Okay. Now, barring maybe 1 or 2 people, nobody in this room was at that meeting.
Right.
So all we can do is receive those minutes because none of us could approve them. So we've included them. They're documented in the minute books.
Good.
But that's as far as we can go because I don't think anyone could put up their hand and say, yeah, I'll move those minutes because I heard them and I was there and they're accurate. But
So we're catching up.
we're catching up. There's a lot of that going on, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just clarification. Thank you. Yeah, that was it.
Seeing no further questions, I'll let you continue.
Sarah, if I'm not mistaken, your motion tonight's an aggregate motion, right? For receive the minutes, approve the financial statements, and then approve the auditors. So just a little bit of background on auditor selection. I'm going to start with Grimsby Power. So the Grimsby Power Board went through a process that's in your documents. It gives you a background of how that worked, and made a choice to recommend KPMG as the auditors for the coming year for Grimsby Power. The shareholder of Grimsby Power, being Niagara Power, approved that recommendation. Okay. Once we knew that that's where we were headed, we then went out and had to quote the audit business for Niagara Power, which is less significant. The Niagara Power Board is recommending the same auditor, KPMG. It makes a lot of sense to use both, the same for both, to the shareholder, which you're representing tonight. Okay, so that's the logic of what's being presented here. So the Niagara Power Board is recommending to the shareholder that we go with KPMG as the auditors for a one-year term, potentially renewable, for 2019. Okay, so that's really what you're voting on as part of that motion. Any questions? Is that clear?
Yeah. Any questions from council? Councillor Dunstall?
So what we're saying is we're doing two separate audits, one for Grimsby Power and one, but essentially we just heard tonight that the bulk of the audit is Grimsby Power, but it's under Niagara Power. So we're creating
two separate companies.
Two separate companies, but
You'll notice the fee on Niagara Power is not substantial, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Councillor Vane?
Sorry, Kurt, again, forgive my ignorance here, but now that we've gotten rid of, or potentially gotten rid of GEI, and do we still need to have all these companies? Can we not just have one power company now? Would that not make more sense? I don't know if it's possible. I'm just asking a what if, that's all. Thank you.
Always look at structure, but I think you always want to talk to accountants and lawyers when you get into corporate structures. There's other reasons, tax, liability, other reasons you would structure things and layer things this way. So we would always, as a board, always be looking at the optimal structure to keep all those things in mind. But for now, this would be the right structure. Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Great, thank you. Seeing no further questions, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Ritchie, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that 2018 Niagara Power Incorporated Annual General Meeting minutes be received, and that 2018 Niagara Power Incorporated Consolidated Audited Financial Statements be approved, and that 2018 Niagara Power Incorporated Non-Consolidated Financial Statements be approved, and that the recommendation of KPMG as the auditors for the NPI board be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Just need a motion to adjourn the Niagara Power Annual General Meeting for year ended 2018. They can come from the floor or anywhere. Would you like to move that, Mr. Hatton? Okay, moved by Rob Hatton. Seconded by Jim Howden. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have report CORP 19-02. Aaron Ohosky so Philip, welcome Philip.
I always forget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. Just to upfront Aaron's presentation, I just wanted to say, give you a quick background, which is the purpose of my staff report, just the background. Aaron's going to go over the details. But just really quickly, on August 26th, Council decided to undertake the Council Strategic Priority Setting Initiative using an external facilitator. Our schedule was aggressive. We accomplished this in 3 months, but through a lot of hard work, teamwork, commitment, And at coming together, council has completed the process on time. And we're here before you today presenting our final report. Through your work, consultation with staff and our community, we have finalized 4 guiding principles, 7 theme areas, and you took 63 initiatives and projects and narrowed them down, finalized on 22. So congratulations on all your hard work over the last 3 months. Erin Ohoski is with me here today, and she'll be going over the details with you, and we'll be taking questions. Before turning it over, though, I just want to say congratulations to council. I want to say thank you to staff for all their input and the community, and especially my project team who supported me throughout all the hard work in the background. This wouldn't be possible without them, so they deserve a lot of the credit, as you do as well. So I'll turn it over to Erin, and we'll take questions later.
Thank you, Philip. Good evening, Mayor Jordan and members of council. It's my pleasure to be here presenting your strategic priorities for 2019 to 2022, and of course, setting the course for terms that come after this one. So if we were to sum up the whole strategic priorities setting exercise, and I think the Coles notes, if you didn't read any further, I think the biggest takeaway from the process is that your strategic priorities are all about preserving, protecting, enhancing what matters most to residents, and you've identified that as Grimsby's distinct character, your natural setting, heritage, and culture. So if you read no further, certainly that was the biggest takeaway from our discussions over the last 3 months. Just to back up, and this slide won't be new to you, but we've been going through this slide through the whole process about what the priority setting process looks like. Under phase 1, we launched it, and I was here with you on August 26th, launching the process. In phase 2, we really got to know the community. We interviewed each of you individually, your team. We toured Grimsby. And that culminated in also developing a strategic framework, which you helped to finalize at your first workshop. In phase 4, we refined those priorities. Since your workshop on November 11th here, we've been working on communications planning, getting ready to communicate to employees and to the community pending your approval. And tonight, right on target, December 2nd, we're here requesting your final approval. Now, before we got into selecting your priority initiatives, you'll recall first, as a council, you determined what success looks like to you. We asked you questions in terms of what does success look like to you for Grimsby in 2040, and if you back that up, what does success look like in 2022 when this term of council is complete? And that exercise culminated in 4 strategic priorities, which you finalized on November the 11th. The first, we build trust with our community through meaningful communication, transparency, leading financial management, and responsive service. The second, we welcome, nurture, and support businesses to contribute to the financial sustainability of our town and create opportunities for residents. Number 3, we are committed to growth that prioritizes the distinct character, natural setting, culture, and heritage that makes Grimsby special and puts our residents first. And number 4, we are an inclusive community that considers the needs from all generations, backgrounds, abilities, and incomes. Now, with those 4 guiding principles as your backdrop, as Philip mentioned earlier, you narrowed down 63 initiatives on November 11th. So between initiatives you had identified, your employees had identified, and we heard through community consultations, there were 63 initiatives to begin with. You agreed that a narrow focus was preferable to make sure that you set priorities that were meaningful and that were achievable. And we talked about that mantra, that choice between going inches on many initiatives or really picking those narrow focus and going miles on these 22. These 22 initiatives fall within 7 themes: responsible development, business attraction, growth and retention, accountability and transparency, transportation, heritage and culture, the environment, and community amenities. Within responsible development, this was the #1 theme that came out in the discussions with you and the discussions with residents through the consultations. And the goal here, as you determined at your November 11th workshop, is encourage development that reflects the aims and priorities of the community. You established 4 strategic priorities here, everything from urban design guidelines to appropriate infrastructure planning, limiting high-rise development, and setting neighborhood-specific policies that respond to concerns and desires of residents. The second is all about economic development, business retention, growth, and expansion, with the goal of fostering a vibrant business environment in Grimsby. Again, there's 4 initiatives under this theme. Really taking a look at the structure and resources that are allocated to economic development in Grimsby and identifying opportunities to do better or more. Supporting the growth of existing businesses by allowing more mechanisms and tools for businesses to bring their needs and concerns to Town Hall. Develop and implementing a marketing strategy to clearly demonstrate Grimsby as a great place to do business. And supporting programs and information for entrepreneurs and small business, as well as greater use of incentives to encourage new ventures. The third is accountability and transparency, with a goal here to build trust and confidence in the town's operations and services and build a strong reputation for the corporation. In speaking with many of you over the last few months, I know you've made great strides in the last year to demonstrate accountability and transparency at Town Hall. I know that you wanted to do more to continue the momentum of earning that trust and confidence with the public. So here you have 3 strategic priorities, from attaining best-in-class financial management practices to streamlining decision-making at the council level, as well as identifying and implementing improved approaches to communication and customer service. The fourth is transportation, with a goal of providing safe and efficient transportation options throughout Grimsby. And the first initiative you selected here is continuing to work with provincial and regional governments to support and advocate an escarpment crossing in West Niagara. Something else that many of you noted throughout our discussions is you receive a lot of calls from residents about safety issues on local roads. So as a strategic initiative, you have set increase the safety on local roads by identifying and investigating areas of concern and pursuing innovative traffic calming measures. As well, the last strategic initiative you selected here was explore the potential for a municipal partnership with car sharing services. The next theme was heritage and culture, with the end goal of protecting, preserving, and enhancing Grimsby's distinct heritage and culture. And the 3 initiatives you've selected here are develop a heritage master plan, build a pedestrian square as a gathering place in the historic downtown, and protect the heritage and physical character of Grimsby Beach. The environment is the next theme, and here you've set some really progressive goals about becoming a municipal leader in sustainability, as well as protecting and preserving Grimsby's distinct natural setting. Two strategic initiatives here. The first, build a sustainability lens to become a leader, a municipal leader in addressing climate change, as well as protect and invest in parklands and green spaces through park renewal, erosion control, and tree protection. And of course, the 7th theme is community amenities, where you've set a goal to provide adequate and quality amenities to serve Grimsby's growing population. 3 strategic initiatives under this theme: continue to support and advocate for Westlink Memorial Hospital, expand amenities within the Peach King Centre, and as well as improve trail network and access and accelerated public access to the waterfront. Some thank yous are in order. So first of all, I'd like to thank residents who came out and talked to us over the course of the strategic priority setting process. Residents took time to fill out the online survey. They took time to submit comments through Facebook, and many residents took the time to meet directly with us here at the Peach King Centre on October the 26th, as well as at Station 1. And thanks so much to the folks at Station 1 for allowing us to do that in their facility. Secondly, thank you so much to the team here, to employees for contributing their thoughts and ideas, especially Philip and Amira DeClaudio for all their support throughout the process. But most of all, thank you to you, Council, for your leadership, for your collaboration. I know that we are set to go pending approval of your priorities to communicate this across the corporation. We are set to communicate it to the public. And I know that senior staff, through speaking with Harry and through Philip, that senior staff have already started mobilizing to understand how they can integrate these priorities within their business practices, as well as annual budget cycles. But for my part, it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with you since August the 26th, and I'm pleased to respond to any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you very much, Aaron, for your presentation. Councillor Bain?
Hi, Aaron. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for everything. You did a great job. I just have a couple of quick questions. And forgive me, I'm sorry, we've had so much this year. I'm just trying to remember. We had a couple of meetings, and I remember looking at the priorities and the initiatives and everything that you had up there. And I have to admit, I have to congratulate this council and you for the work that we did. That was not easy. That was a difficult practice. My question is that, and just refresh my memory, where was the staff input on this? Was that brought to us at our last meeting? And that was part of what we were dealing with, was the staff input as well?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Staff were invited to submit comments via email, and we also had a subject matter expert workshop. That was on, I think, October the 29th, where the staff had the opportunity to take a look at what you had developed at your first workshop and suggest additional initiatives or operational ideas related to what you had put forward. That comprised part of the 63 initiatives that you considered on November the 11th.
Have you had any feedback from any staff since you created this? Or is any of the staff, like you say that the town managers brought it to them, has there been any feedback, any disagreement or agreement? And my other question would, or the second part of that question is to the town manager himself, Mr. Schlang. Will we be meeting with town staff to try and put this all together, or is that just something that's going to be done through the town manager?
Through you, Mayor. On the first question, yes, we've already looked at it, you know, pending the outcome of today, and we're already starting to look at how we build this into our practices and as well as in the 2020 budget proposal. And yeah, so we're just working on the operational component now. You've given us the direction. Now it's up to the operation teams to drive it and implement. Yeah.
Councillor Vardy?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of suggestions. I just put it out there because I don't know if we'd have to vote on it, but in priority number 4, transportation, I wonder if we should call it transportation and safety. Because if you just say transportation, I think the default is we're getting a bus. But we're really also talking quite a bit about safety, and some of our initiatives like the Diamond are really focused on safety. And then on page 11, it's the Irish Grove woodlot. Yes. Yeah. And I guess the last thing I want to say is perhaps, Mr. Mayor, a suggestion for you and perhaps Mr. Furtick, could make a presentation to the region about our priorities so they can see how they can support them, particularly where responsible development is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vardy. That is a great idea. Councillor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan, through you to Aaron. I thought you did a great job, Aaron. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of good learning for council and combining all the information with staff and the residents. And I think you mentioned to us at our last session, but maybe for the public in that you could maybe just highlight a little bit the numbers of how successful the surveys were and the public input too. I thought I heard you say, you know, being a town of, I don't know which sign you want to look at. One says 28,000, but let's just say we're close to 30. But anyways, just if you could just do maybe a bit of a comment to the reception from the public. Thank you.
Absolutely. Through you, Mayor Jordan, if memory serves, between the online form and the comment cards we had distributed throughout the community, I believe there were 173 responses, as well as, I think, 49 comments through the town's Facebook channel.
Councillor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you very much, Aaron. And I also, I believe you, the staff, you were at the farmers market and you mentioned Station 1. So it was great that the team was out there really lobbying to the residents. So again, thank you very much.
Councillor Frey?
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. thank you very much for all of your work you put into this and the direction. And I've got to say one thing, that since this council's been together, and it's been a year now, I guess a year this week, tomorrow, I think, or the day after tomorrow, I haven't seen this council work so closely together to get a document or a strategic plan or anything together. And I think it's a good example, I think, of how we all can work together and come up with a common cause and a common strategy. Thank you for doing that. Really appreciate it. I think that we should all give ourselves a little applause for that. Having said that, now that we have our strategic plan, the next thing, of course, is putting it into some kind of actionable pieces so that staff, through Harry, can get these things done. I assume that we're going to break these down into smaller bits for each of our departments and department heads and so on and so forth, and we'll put action items with dates, time frames. We only have 3 years left on this council, and this is a pretty gigantic ask for us to get through all this by the end of 3 years. So I assume that we have another piece to play in this, and I guess we'll be depending on Harry to come back with the next piece. Is that true? Any idea of timing?
Through you, Mayor, the first aspect that we're going to start to see is in the budget process in January. You know, as we start, now that you've set a roadmap of the future, how do we enable that both financially and with the resources? So some action plans will come out of that. You'll start to see some of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry. To the Mayor. Yeah, the work plan, I guess that's the next big thing. So in order for us to price this out, if you want to, for lack of a better word, are we going to have enough time to do that, to include it into the budget, which is not too far around the corner?
Through you, Mayor, we've already started to work on it because we saw some of the priorities coming out, so we'll be able to see what we can accomplish over the 3-year term. I'm working with the treasurer to do a 3-year forecast, for out your council term, financial forecast with a 2020 actual budget, so you'll start to see these flush out over the next 3 years.
Can I follow up one more? Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we know that over past years that we haven't been really great as to putting budgets together and following through and meeting them and meeting our goals and objectives, but I'm really looking forward to seeing a good budget process coming out, which is centered around this document, because this is the document that we as a council put together. And if we don't come out with, if the numbers in this document does not come out equal, then I think we're going to go off track pretty quickly. So hopefully this will be doctored into the budget. So you don't have to comment on that, just a comment by me. One other thing, Aaron, if you might, the Irish woodlot is actually on Hunter Road, I think, isn't it? Not Livingston?
Yeah, it's on the Livingston Avenue extension, which is kind of a bad word, but it is borders on Hunter Road as well, and the railroad tracks to the north.
It's a very controversial issue. Anyways, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bothwell.
Councillor Vardy stole my thunder on the, so it's just the reference, and I know it was totally unintentional to call it the Livingston Road woodlot. They don't go together. It's and all our references historically have been the Irish Grove woodlot, and you might not have known that, but it's that's the sensitive topic part. So if there's a way to change that through our final document, it would be much appreciated for historical purposes forever. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Jordan, we will take that, seeing the council as a friendly amendment, and we'll get that changed.
Great, thank you. And seeing no further questions, just I want to thank you, Aaron, for putting this together and getting council to actually do this strategic priority exercise. It was very fulfilling as council, and even though as a new council we're wide-eyed and open and want to do everything, you streamlined us and narrowed it down so we have realistic goals that we can fulfill over the next 3 years. Thank you again very much. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that report Corp. 19-02, 2019 Council Strategic Priority Setting Initiative dated December 2nd, 2019 be received, and the Town of Grinsby Council Priorities 2019 to 2022 be approved as amended. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, where am I? All right. Up next, we have Report PA 19-44, Review of the Site Alteration and Bylaw Options. Mr. Basic is going to come up and talk on that? Oh, Kathy, well, welcome Kathy Hickson.
Good evening, Mayor Jordan and members of council. We've prepared a report to provide clarity on the history of site alteration bylaws to date, permits issued, and options for your consideration. Site alteration is commonly defined as the placing or dumping of fill, the removal of topsoil or changing the grade of land, and may include vegetation removal. It is a necessary part of land development and other normal human activities. Done responsibly, site alteration can improve soil and water quality, sensitive natural areas such as wetlands, woodlands, and valley lands, productivity of agricultural lands, and surrounding properties. Not done responsibly, site alteration can reduce soil quality, cause water quality and quantity issues, damage or destroy trees and other natural features, and create aesthetic or health issues. Site alteration in Ontario works from the top down. Province sets standards, provincial agencies cover their regulated jurisdictions, and local municipalities can cover the remaining areas. This shows the areas already dealt with through other agency regulations, like the Niagara Escarpment Commission and the Conservation Authority. When the other 11 municipalities under the region of Niagara were circulated with a questionnaire asking how satisfied they were with their site alteration bylaws, Pelham was the only positive response. Pelham is the only one that considers this as an environmental issue and prohibits. The town should heed this experience. Please consider regulations exist to protect lands from inappropriate site alteration and exemptions to allow appropriate site alteration. Grimsby can prohibit within its jurisdiction and allow agencies like the Conservation Authority and OMAFRA to regulate situations within their jurisdiction. Also consider that a bylaw that exists but is not enforced is of no effect. Should council choose to implement a bylaw which includes a permitting system, note that currently there are insufficient resources to manage this process. In the 3 years that Grimsby has attempted to create a permit system, there have been 3 permits issued. Their complex history is an example of the multitude of extenuating circumstances that come with this process. The costs to enforce have yet to be realized, as noted in the report. The permits have generated a revenue of approximately $2,153, and the expenses incurred in managing these permits to date is $21,000, which does not include staff time. The existing Town of Grimsby bylaw and its 2 predecessors mimicked other area bylaws and was a reaction to sites in agricultural areas importing fill, which brought the inevitable trucks to transport to the site. Implementing and enforcing a bylaw with a permitting system is not sustainable in our opinion. Prohibition would have dealt with these sites by either proof of normal farm practice or an order to cease immediately, which would have been the end of the situations. Council has an opportunity to create a bylaw that fits our ability to administer and enforce. This will permit legitimate farming, landscaping, and gardening that does not affect drainage or a neighbor, and prohibit the importation of fill of any form onto agricultural lands that are not already protected under the existing regulations. Prohibition aligns with the Council's priorities of environmental sustainability and is simple and easy to enforce. There have been 3 permits issued under the previous bylaws. These sites are currently not in a state that's acceptable, and if left unfinished, could cause water quality or quantity issues, cause a dust nuisance during dry periods, and create aesthetic or health and safety issues. Our recommendations are: extend the moratorium until March 31st, 2020 to conclude this process. Allow existing sites to finalize grading to the town's satisfaction with the existing soil. Adopt option 1, prohibition. This best aligns with the Council's priority and is simply the easiest to enforce. Council should note, public input is not legislated in this process, and public notification is required when the bylaw is adopted. And can I take any questions through you, Mayor?
Councillor Bain?
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question. Now, you've listed 3 sites here. I drive up Wolverton sometimes, and there's a house there with a big field behind it, which has about 6 feet of soil above ground level. And there's a sign at the neighbor's driveway across the street says soil over there. He's already way over. Why is he not on here? Or maybe he is. Maybe I'm not aware of the address. But I know that the dumping there is ridiculous. Like I say, it's at least 6 feet high above the ground, so it's going to cause issues. So I'm just curious if maybe I'm not aware of the address being here, or maybe if you know something I don't.
To you, Mr. Mayor. That site has not been issued a site alteration permit, and if there are a requirement to visit it and do enforcement, then we can go ahead and do that, but we do not have it listed as a permit.
I actually drive by there twice a week. I will take photos and send them to you when I get back, because, like I say, that I couldn't believe it when I saw it, and then the signs are still there, and it's just, the person's building a mountain there. So I will send you photos. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell?
If that's 219 Wolverton, they were issued a stop work order. So if that's the site you're driving past, it's across from the old printing site that's now the cannabis research that's not open. It's just at the top of the hill on the left-hand side. Right. So it's 219. So they were operating, and the director of bylaw enforcement had the bylaw officer go and actually do a stop work order on them because they didn't have a permit. So they had been ongoing, though, from previous years, I guess it was. So there is some history with that site. So I'll leave it with building and bylaw to go and investigate further. But from what I understand, they have stopped taking anything on, and I don't know if there's still some grading issues. So I just had a few other questions through you, the Mayor, if you don't mind on that. I'm sorry for responding to that, but that was one that I was involved with Mr. Boncory. And the other, getting to the other point about 3 permits, there's another one that was also issued for 300 Heisert that was just recent, and it was a grandfathered permit, so we might want to look at that to find out the status of where that one's at. It was funny because a few of them kept popping up, and I didn't know about the Mountain Road one because that wasn't on the original report that we received, and then we found out just recently that that one was in non-compliance as well. With regards to the draft that you've put together, I just had a few questions. I appreciate the amount of work you put into it. I'm a little hesitant to go with option 1. I'm quite hesitant to go with option 1 because it leaves us quite open to a number of loopholes which other municipalities found, and that's why Pelham's, which is 2013, and they may not be experiencing a lot of issues, but other municipalities are and have moved forward with updating their site alteration bylaws, and most of them are much more current than Pelham's, and they've actually, West Lincoln is one that recently was noted as being a model in the province, and the province has come to them actually to have their input in with regards to the soil, the excess soil regulations that they're currently undergoing, putting out as well. West Lincoln's model is very similar to the one that we originally had. So our bylaw, which has gone through a couple of revisions, when I originally brought this, the request to have a director's report on that, the intent was that we took what we had and not basically start from scratch again, which option one is saying, let's just hope for the best and take our clean bylaw, property standards bylaw, and let the province handle the environmental aspects, and we'll just let normal farm practices happen and see what happens. This came about because people were not happy. So yes, we might be spending a bit of money on getting this right, but what we're doing is we have people who are not happy up there with the amount of truck traffic, with the volume of disturbance to their life on weekends, all hours of the day and night. So what we've done is we've taken the best of other models, and what we had was a good draft. It did need refinement. It does need some additional paragraphs in it on normal farm practices. West Lincoln has done that. They have put in a couple paragraphs that restrict the amount that are within, which don't restrict a farmer from doing proper upgrading to their property, and I think it covers it well. They actually just did an additional amendment to the topsoil requirement as well as the other one. So I'm thinking that we already have a good bones for our bylaw. Yes, it does need some refinement, and what I was hoping was we would take ours and that legal or a consultant would look at where our gaps were and then just refine our policy and strengthen it in a way that would withstand challenge. And West Lincoln has done that because they've said that they have a really good model. Burlington has a good model. Hamilton is going through it as well. Other municipalities outside of our jurisdiction have instituted some really good models. The Ontario Soil Regulation Task Force has a model bylaw that also says don't leave yourself open. Although normal farm practices are, you can't restrict them, you can put in language that still gives you some oversight, and we need to have that oversight. We can't go with a total no permitting system. So my feeling is option two, I'm leaning towards, because I think we can take the model we have and refine it. I could give you some wording from West Lincoln, but they basically just talked about capacity on the amount of fill, so I won't go into it, but if you look at it, and it was in the newspaper recently as well, they're just an excellent model to look at. So I would like to think that what we could do is take this back and go with option two and refine ours, and actually have the CAO maybe look at it again in a little bit more depth, or see where it needs to go to get that refinement, and take the best practices from another municipality and just refine what we have and strengthen it. I think we have models out there that we can use. And I think it's not a lot of work to go with what we have and just top it up. Yes, we're going to have a little bit of, we are going to have commitment from staff. We are going to have a little more bylaw enforcement. But I think once a message gets out there that we have a strong and robust fill bylaw, that we're not going to see the problems, and we're going to have to educate. And so part of it is, no, we're not going to just I don't think we're going to wait till we pass the bylaw. Other municipalities as well tell the public, this is our draft bylaw, this is what we're doing. Education is key. So I think once we have that draft, we need to let the community know. And yes, we'll get some feedback. That's what we want. So I think that is an important part of this process, is to be transparent and open, and to bring it out there and say this is the best of what we have that we're putting together. So I'd like to just suggest that we look at extending the moratorium to March 2020 to allow for the refinement of our original site bylaw with some of those refinements, and then not to extend the grading, because if we extend the grading for the 3 properties that are in dispute right now, they're currently under legal challenge, 1 or 2 of them, so it would be inappropriate for us to give them the go-ahead to grade when they're currently in a legal challenge, so I don't think we should be enacting anything like that at this point. What we could do is I mean, we could revisit that. The other problem with saying go ahead with the grading is it's December. They won't be doing it till May when they can get onto their property, and then there's no end date as to how long they can do that grading. So I don't think we're in a position to, at this point, to allow the grading to continue until the moratorium is finished and we've refined our site bylaw, and then we can look at which will be end of March. So we'll be able to provide those parties, we'll have some legal closure, and we'll be able to provide those parties with some direction as to how we can handle the grading issues that are there. And then it'll be in a timely manner because they won't be ready to go in their fields anyway at that point. So I'm going to suggest that, and then it go back then for further refinement, come back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Councillor Vardy? Yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, prohibition is the most extreme way we can manage this. We wouldn't be asking for anybody to provide us with other information or to make a claim as to why they should be allowed to alter their site. We're saying we don't allow it unless regulations that already exist do, or you have a building permit, or you're under a site development. In these situations, it's part of an already existing permit. What we're saying is we prohibit people from bringing in fill on agricultural land, and that is the rule. And I think that's very robust. I think that's very straightforward and very understandable, and it's very easy to enforce. Number one, you can't, and if you do, then we can issue an order to cease, and that is it.
Councillor Bothwell?
The option one isn't that clear cut. It still provides for unfettered normal farm practices and no guidance on the amount of soil that can be brought on. The prohibition is not restricted to from what I can see in your language here, normal farm practices. It also says that we would use whatever bylaws we currently have in place to deal with things, but none of them are applicable to site alteration that you have listed in Schedules A and B. They're very far from the actual site alteration bylaws. Some of them are, but some of them are provincial jurisdiction, which we can't enforce anyway. So I don't feel that it's not technically prohibition. The other thing that's missing in the report is Appendix 1 isn't attached, and it says the full bylaw should be in here, and I don't see it anywhere. I only see the breakdown of what the proposal for option 1, and I don't see that prohibition is clear that you can or can't. It's not clear that you can't do it, and I'm not comfortable with the wording at all in option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a friendly, Councillor Bain.
Excuse me. I, with a great deal of respect to Councillor Bothwell's position, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say that I think a lot of the people in this town, and I shouldn't say a lot of people who have alternative motives, such as some of the developers and that, have basically just flipped their nose at us and said, we're going to do whatever we want, catch us if you can, that type of thing. So I'm going to I agree with some of the things that Councillor Bothwell says about, things missing in that, but my suggestion would be to adopt this now, build on what Councillor Bothwell is saying, and then we revitalize or revisit our current bylaw and redesign it according to what West Lincoln's getting a lot of accolades lately for things they're doing, and I think we could look at that. But in the meantime, I would like to see a full prohibition. I think it's time that we stop these people from that just keep telling us we'll do whatever we want. So I do support the idea of a prohibition for now, with the presumption that we're going to take Councillor Bothwell's suggestion and take our current bylaw and revisit it according to West Lincoln's and build the best one we can, because this has got to stop. We're just being run all over by all kinds of people. That's all. Thank you.
Just to further to Councillor Bain's, we have a friendly amendment here that will take care of this, and I don't know if you want, I'll let Councillor Cadwell speak first, but then I could read this friendly amendment that both the mover and seconder agree to, and I think it will solve our problems. Councillor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan, and thank you for the report, Kathy. I just was reading through it, and having lived this for a few years now, Is there anything or any way, and I don't want to sound like a dictatorship as a town, but there was the site, the second site that's on Kemp, no, I think it's the third site on Kemp Road now, 149, I'll call it that. The landowner stated that he's planning to, I don't know whether he's a bona fide farmer or I don't know how that categorized, favors or how it works for him. But is there a way that we could enforce a time frame? Because I heard him say that he's planning to plant trees and things like that. He's going to be food from the land to the table type thing. So is there anything we can do under the act, or that we can say, okay, you have to, you've said you're going to farm in 2 years or whatever time frame that's fair to both sides, that we can follow up on that to, because it really bothers me that 42 Kemp Road West, where the mountain is, there's nothing going there. Sorry, I have my own personal opinion on that, and I don't think there'll be anything growing there or anything of any sort, or even any grass. Sorry, but that's what I'm looking for, Kathy. Is there something we can put in place that the landowner, after the site alteration, and hopefully it doesn't affect the height-wise as to the neighbors? I'm looking at a lot of them, and that's another thing we can have some discussion on too. But yeah, anyways, is there anything we can do, Kathy, for that? And just last one before you comment. Thank you for looking at extending the moratorium. I think that's great. It gives us more time to dig our heels into, with a lot of the good comments. But yeah, on my first question, Kathy, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. 149 Kemp did have a permit from April 2018 to April 2019, and they were extended to July 19th. And it had extenuating circumstances where wet weather, being able to get the equipment on and to actually complete the process required to grade the property in accordance with the agreement that had been entered into. In that time frame, we have repealed and replaced and now have a hold or a moratorium on the existing site alteration, which is far more extensive than the original agreement entered into under that permit. None of the preceding bylaws had any kind of transition clause to allow us to kind of carry that forward. So that would have to be the council's decision as to how that's managed with this scenario, and if you are willing to offer an extension or a creation of a offer to allow these sites to complete to the grades that were submitted within the original agreements, or whether you would want them to grade with the site or the fill already on site. But that would have to come from council.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor Jordan. Yeah, I guess it's not so much the grades, it's what they're somewhat promising to do on the lands after. Yeah, I guess that's where I'm kind of questioning and asking if there's anything we can have in place. Whether they plant trees after, or they harvest it with whatever, wheat. Yeah, I just wonder if there's anything we can follow up and have in place that to make sure these things do get done as planned by both parties, or by the landowners. Thank you.
Through you, Mary. That's a good question. I can take that back and give you a better answer on that. Thank you.
Councillor Barty.
Thank you. I just want to say I fully support Councillor Bothwell's option, because I'm not sure we're going to get the protection that we want from option one. The other thing that I just want to remark on, it does say that, option two is easier and simpler, but sometimes doing the right thing isn't always the easiest or simplest. So, and I think that this is an issue of big importance to the community, and I think having a bylaw in place, even if it does require some effort to manage, it's an important issue for our residents.
All right, I'll read the friendly amended resolution. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Dunstall. resolve that report PA 19-44 regarding review of site alterations and bylaw options be received, and that A, the current moratorium within bylaw 19-79 for permits under the authority of bylaw 19-34 be extended to March 31st, 2020 to permit the resolution of this process, and B, that the review of site alteration bylaw be referred back to the CAO for further consideration. All in favor? And that's carried. Up next, we have the Parks, Recreation, Culture Committee meeting minutes of November 21st. Any comments? Councillor Vane?
Just actually, Councillor Ritchie was the one that actually chaired this. I was absent for it, but I just want to make one comment, and it's just for future reference, and I'm going to direct this to the Director of Parks. We have in our minutes here, it says lay members. I thought we were under the impression we'd agreed to change that to committee members. Okay, that's the only comment I have. Thank you. I'll leave it up to Councillor Ritchie to go through the minutes. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, through the mayor. I'll make this short and sweet. I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to read the minutes. Things to note was the Santa Claus parade. Basically, we were just closing the road, but that's just a reminder that that's this Saturday. And also to note is that there was a recommendation put forward that we have here later tonight for the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee to have 2 or 3 councillors on that committee. Any questions?
Seeing no questions for Councillor Ritchie, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the Parks, Recreation and Culture Committee meeting minutes of November 21st, 2019 be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have the GDAC meeting minutes of November 20th, 2019. Councillor Cadwell, you'd like to comment on them?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jordan. We had a quorum at our GDAC meeting, and also to start the meeting off, I just spoke with the members of the committee just to get to inform them the position of what GDAC is. It's an advisory committee to council, and I think we had a bit of a maybe misconception understanding that we were going to be a standing committee to council, but we still are we're an advisory committee directly to council. So that was our first kind of order of business. The minutes of the meeting held on November 13th were received and approved by the committee members. We had 2 presentations. Kelly Provost from the Niagara region, who's an economic development officer with the region. She gave us 2 great presentations, and one was to do with some statistics with regards to, it's called Grimsby Economic Indicators. And it was, I hope a lot of you council members got a chance to have a look at it. A lot of good information with regards to business statistics, demographics, income in Grimsby, population census, Grimsby commuters. Very good information, and a lot of good discussion, a lot of good topics were discussed back and forth on that. So, yeah, and also Kelly gave us another presentation. We really put her to work that day. And it was to do with excuse me, just let me read my notes here. It was about tourism in Grimsby. And she referenced on the RTO, which is funded by the province, and then gave us a bit of the grade levels of tourism, so to speak. So there's the RTO that's funded by the province, then there's the DMOs. And which is about, I believe there's 6 DMOs in the area or in the province. I know Councillor Dunstall has a lot of good history on this too. But anyways, good discussion on that too. We're unfortunately, Grimsby is not a member in any of the DMOs, because apparently to be a member of a DMO, which would be in the Niagara, you have to be known as a destination marketing community, so to speak. So we don't fall under those guidelines, so to speak. So yeah, that was again 2 great presentations by Kelly, and again, that's councilors. You can find that through the minutes and probably on our website. If you want any more information to it, please either let me know or go through Nancy Simon, and she can help you out that way too. New business, we discussed the mayor's breakfast recap. We had 129 registered guests to the mayor's breakfast event. Great event, went really well. Sponsorship went well too. About $2,500 from sponsorships for the event. Ticket sales generated about $2,000 in ticket sales. We weren't able to get the exact financial update at the meeting on the 20th, but our next meeting in December, which will be the 16th, I believe. Hopefully, we'll get a financial update to the mayor's event. So. And I believe that was pretty much it. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them best I can. Thank you.
Councillor Vane?
Excuse me, 2 questions. I was under the impression as well that GDAC is a standing committee. Am I incorrect in that? No, I'm not. No, I am? I'm wrong?
Through you, Mayor, no, it's an advisory committee just directly to council.
My second question is, sorry, I'm still hung up on that one. We can discuss that later. The $19,000, can you just refresh us what that was approved for? I believe it was lighting downtown. Good if you could explain a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, if with council's will, I would like to ask maybe Sarah Sweeney, our Recreation Director, if she could give a little bit of input to that, and I'll follow up to Councillor Vane. So if that's okay with everybody. Thank you. Hi, Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sure. So at the previous GDAC meeting, to the one you're referring to, we did approve the use of that $19,000. The first priority was to put lighting downtown and do some canopy tree lighting in the trees, primarily between Christie Street and Ontario Street, and that's done. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, please do. It looks great. There's some timing issues perhaps with a few of the trees, but we'll figure that out. But they look really good, so that's nice. That's done. The next priority was to do a wayfinding sign, and I just caution in some ways the way with wayfinding sign. It's more of a wayfinding board, so it'll be a large board that we put down in the community, hopefully in 2 places if the dollars allow us to do so, and it will help to navigate people around downtown, let people know what's downtown, whether that's natural amenities, cultural amenities, parking. I think there'll be a really nice board. There was an example in the report that sort of shows the vision of what that board will look like that we actually borrowed from Alora, so that type of idea. I think it'll look really good. We'll also be able to use those graphics for other pieces as well, so it'll be something that we use specifically for this project, but can use in some other ways as well. And then the third piece was there's a sign, and not having a visual might be limiting in terms of if people know where it is. There's a sign in front of, I think it's the DJB building, and it says, "Welcome to downtown Grimsby," I believe, and it's made of stone, but it's kind of tucked back in the corner, and it just needs a little bit of sprucing up, maybe a little bit of solar lighting, and just make it a little bit more visible, because it is a nice little sign as you come over the Christie Street Bridge, but it's just hidden. So that was the third item that $19,000 will use.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Sorry, I may just add a comment to Councillor Vane. Is we're also awaiting, and we did get some information that from the wayfinding sign perspective, there may be some dollars from the Niagara region, possibly too. So that probably would, maybe we'd be looking early in the new year, how we can move forward with that one. Also, the sign that Sarah's speaking on Christie Street, just to the south of the entrance into Giant Tiger, the other part of the sign is Grimsby friendly by nature too. So that was an initiative that was also, that was number 3 through the committee. So yeah, Thank you.
Councillor Vardy? Okay, all right. Councillor Bain?
I'm going to be raising this in new business anyways, but over the past few weeks, I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to a lot of people in the town. I've been all over. I've been kind of pulling a Dave Cadwell. I've been driving all over town. So I have a concern here. I appreciate the $19,000 is intended to boost our town, make it look better, add some kind of whatever. I'm getting a little bit concerned, and like I said, I'll be addressing this more in new business because I have other concerns that I will bring up then. We seem to be spending a lot of money in that one area. And I appreciate the Grimsby downtown's a great area. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I spent Friday night there with Councillor Cadwell and our wives. We had a great time. Did a lot of shopping. But it's only one area of the town. The West End and the DIA.
Councillor Bain, before you go any further, this money was earmarked for downtown.
Okay, but the downtown area, from my understanding, which is covered by the Downtown Improvement Association, DIA, extends from Shoppers Drug Mart all the way out to Coles. Why are we just constantly doing between Christie and Ontario? That's my concern. Like, there's a little bit too much, anyways, too much money being spent in that particular area. I just can question that, that's all.
Yep, great. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Cadwell. Oh, sorry. Frank, Councillor Frank, you'd like to speak?
You missed me.
Sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're on the spot tonight, Councillor Cadwell. I just got explained by Harry what a DMO is, and I didn't realize that we weren't one, and I didn't know there was such a thing as a DMO. And he made a valid suggestion, which we probably should follow up on, and that is we team up with someone like
20 Valley Tourism.
20 Valley Tourism.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I just want to throw out there. The other thing is we get a lot of statistics coming from Kelly, from the region. I'm tired of statistics. What are they doing to help us grow some business in Grimsby? What are they doing to help us get more investment in Grimsby, expand some of the businesses that are there? Are we aware of the businesses we have, and if they have any intentions to stay, go, expand, anything along those lines? Because I heard today, and I can't mention a name, that one of the largest employers in this town has been looking to expand, and I bet nobody around this table knows that. So, what are we doing to? Are we visiting them? Do we have appointments set up? Who's going out to see them? When are they going to see them? What are they going to talk about when they see them? I don't see anything on any of these agendas that addresses that. And I think that's really, really important. This is not a fault, because I mean, you're just finding your feet. But I'd just like to have some goodwill, some good feeling about what we're doing in that area, because we can talk and we can see stats, but action is the next thing. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit. Thank you.
Councillor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan, and through you to Councillor Frake. Yeah, good points there. Again, we have been giving a lot of statistics in that, and we had a lot of good discussion at our last meeting. And what really came out of it basically was business retention. We had a lot of good discussion on business retention. How are we going to support the businesses? How are we going to get out to the businesses and see what we can offer and find ways to help them out? So at this time, again, we're waiting for the budget, that we get our budget through as a council, and maybe there'll be some initiatives in there for possibly an economic development officer. But GDAC, the committee itself, is very aware and on top of what you're asking, Councillor. Again, we did a bit of a survey through Walter Basic. We want to first find out, again, this was in the early stages, what properties that have been vacant for so long in the town of Grimsby, and there's 9 properties that are out there. So we're addressing that. Again, it's baby steps, but it is on the radar. So I don't have an exact answer for you other than it's in discussion, and I hope council through the budget process supports the maybe some recommendations from an economic development standpoint. So thank you.
Before Councillor Frake, our CAO, is going to add to this.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Frake makes a great point. The nice thing about the meeting is we had some new GDAC members, and they're great. You've really picked two additional, they're really positive. And so now everybody has a common understanding of the current state of Grimsby economic development situation. And actually, they really spoke a lot about focus. And, you know, we can't be thinking about tourism as well as business retention. We have to pick one thing and do it well. And business retention and expansion was the #1 initiative that the team said. So from the stats, they said, okay, we better really focus on our top 10, top 50 employers of the community, and we better get out to see them. So you'll see some more action going forward from then. And so it was really good to get everybody at a common understanding, like the entire GDAC community. And it really opened their eyes that when Kelly talked about DMO and that we're not a tourism destination, we don't get funding from the province, a lot of them didn't know, including some of the previous GDAC members. So we're getting our focus, and hopefully that you see in January, February, we start to really drive some of the retention. You're right.
Councillor Frake, then Councillor Ritchie.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Harry. Just to follow up, I don't think we should wait for the budget to come out before we start doing any of these things. I mean, start visiting some of these larger employers. I have a huge concern. I've mentioned this before many, many times over the last year, actually. And I know the GDAC hasn't evolved to where it is today, and I appreciate we have some really great new members on the board, on the committee. But one of my concerns is, does that committee have the time or the experience to go out and talk to senior executives of these companies? And if they do they know which ones to zero in on first? And I mean, like, for example, you take any of these companies, I would say that a lot of the strategic decisions that are made by some of these companies here they don't exist here in town. They're probably in West Coast or maybe somewhere in America or whatever the case might be. So the people who are making these decisions don't sit here in Grimsby. So we have to be able to identify who they are, go see them with a strategic plan in mind. And I think we can't address any of these if we don't know what they want or what they expect. So it's a tedious thing. I've done this before. I mean, it's really complicated. It's difficult to get the information because they don't tell you, because they're kept behind closed doors. And there's usually a strategic committee at the executive level that does these things. How are we going to get to that point, at that level, and that depth into the organization to find out what they're thinking? And there's 3 or 4 that really concern me right now along the service road. Because NRB just got bought by a company at West. Do we know what their plans are? Are they going to stay, go, expand? Okay. We've got Henry Peller. We've got 40 Creek was just bought by Campari, one of the largest spirit company in the world. I mean, do we know what they're up to? I mean, do we know who to contact? So, sorry, I'm not making a speech here, but I mean, it is something we need to really look at very carefully.
Councillor Ritchie.
Sorry, through the mayor, if you don't mind, Councillor Cadwell, if I speak a little bit, as being another member on that board, we have discussed a lot about the retention and going out and speaking to business, but one of the things that came to our attention is that we didn't want to jump the gun without having our strategic priorities actually adopted and know the direction that we want to head in. We had a feeling of the direction, but we wanted to wait until it was solidified and then move forward. And I do believe that in the next few months, we will be working very diligently to make sure that happens. With a plan, there'll be a plan in place. Like you said, it's not just, hey, let's go do this, but set up. One of the comments is that many of us may be asked to go visit these businesses. We're the faces of the community being on this council, and all of us may be asked to go and investigate.
Thank you. Councillor Dunstall, go ahead.
My turn already? I thought it was somebody else first. Sorry. Yeah, a couple things I just wanted to point out, and I understand Councillor Frake's concerned about all these numbers, but I've been around the circle for a few years, and it's refreshing to see some of the stuff, if I might use that word, coming out of GDAC now. It's very refreshing. It's nice to see some statistics instead of just what I used to see. It was very foggy. There's some real stuff happening at GDAC that's really exciting, and I believe that they're going to make some inroads. And Councillor Frake, what you're talking about is really complicated. It is really complicated. The whole business community is really complicated. And businesses come for a whole lot of different reasons. It's labor market, it's land use, it's tax base, and all those things. And it can turn somebody over down to Welland instead of Grimsby because of a variety of reasons. Or if we had the Midwest Peninsula corridor, maybe we'd see more businesses here too. I don't know. But it's refreshing. I just want to say keep up the good work at GDAC, because it's things are going in the right direction.
I'm going to read the resolution now. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that the GDAC meeting minutes of November 20th, 2019 be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. All in favor? And that's carried. Up next, we have moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that the following minutes for the Grinsby Green Selection Committee be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. November 10th, 2019, November 26th, 2019, November 30th, 2019. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that Councillor Vane be appointed to the Grinsby Green Committee. Councillor Bothwell?
I just have a comment, a question, if I may, through you. I'm excited to see the Grimsby Green Committee being formed and all the work that Ms. Sweeney's put into terms of reference and the wonderful candidates that came forward through the selection process, of which I was on. I'm also honored to have been chosen by the council to be one of the council representatives, along with Councillor Sharp, on the Grimsby Green Committee in the initiation. The terms of reference for the committee originally stated 2 council members, and those were voted on by council, and they were Councillor Sharp and myself. Subsequent to that, Councillor Vane wished to also be included, and as a result, the terms of reference are being amended to accommodate a 3rd councillor. And this resolution, I believe, is being put forward with that intent, to appoint him. I understand the hard work he's put into trying to move this committee forward and working with the community as well, and that's much appreciated. I'm just a little concerned that it might be, I just want to sense out from Councillor Vane whether it might be too much to take on at this point, just considering the attendance record with regards to some of the other committees that he seems to be on, which Rec Services, he has missed 4 of 11 this year. Public Works, he's missed 6 of 10 this year. Library, he's missed 7 of 10. The DIA, he resigned in July, having missed 3 of 6. And the selection committee that we just partook on for three sessions, he missed 2 of 3 and attended only 1 of the selection committee meetings for this Grimsby Green Committee. So I just am reaching out to Councillor Vane to ask if we move forward with amending the terms of reference to include a 3rd councillor, that the commitment to participate on this committee isn't going to be too much of a burden for him for the once a month, last Wednesday of the month meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Vane?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. It's unfortunate that Councillor Bothwell didn't approach me ahead of time, because she would have known I've contacted all the directors in regards to some schooling I had this semester. which prevented me from attending those meetings on those nights. As of actually next week, I'm back to normal. So I will be attending them. And when I started this Green Committee by myself as the only council member, and I went to all the meetings in it, I had no problem, and it's not a burden to me. Like I said, I had school. It was a one-semester thing, but thank you for bringing that out publicly instead of talking to me first. Not appreciated. Thank you.
All right, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that Councillor Vane be appointed to the Grinsby Green Committee. All in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Cadwell, you'd like to speak on your resolution?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Jordan. I'll just give you a what we're asking for. The support of council too is $4,000 from the physicians reserve for the I'll call them they're side banners that go on the hydro poles, very similar to the ones up in West Lincoln. Again, that was discussion was brought forth after our last West Lincoln Memorial Hospital Advisory Committee meeting at the hospital, speaking with Councillor Cheryl Gannon from West Lincoln and Councillor Tony Bernay from Lincoln about just showing the support. The three West Niagara municipalities and the strong fight that we continue to do for our new hospital. And I've been up to Smithfield a few times and seen the banners up there, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. That's good. I like that. So anyways, that's why I'm bringing this forth to council, as we can look at approximately 30 banners. I believe it's approximately 26 would be in the downtown DIA area, and then putting 4 banners up, getting the approval of Hydro, obviously first, to put them on the poles that are around the hospital too, just to, a lot of people are up and down number 8 highway, Kings Highway there. And again, just to show our strength and unity and support to our hospitals. So there are a couple quotes that I mentioned. I think I've spoke to most, I sent emails out to all the councilors. So I won't get into those right now, but just from just looking for support for this $4,000. I had a chat with Mr. Greninger with regards to the reserve that the money's coming from, and probably go way back to Alderman Furtick's day on council that's never been touched. And anyways, I just thought it'd be a good spot. The money's there, and the $4,000 would also cover some installation. I think Councillor Frake, we had some conversation. Maybe GPI might be able to help us out in putting banners up. I've also spoken to Mr. McCauley at Brian, because he knows a lot of the history of who's been putting the banners up in the past and that. So again, it's all part of the whole plan that we can get this done anyway. So I would hope that I could get support from council for the $4,000 from the reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Ritchie, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that staff proceed with the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital initiative to create banners to be placed within the DIA boundaries. The funding is to be provided from the Physicians Recruitment Funding Reserve. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the banners up as soon as possible. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that the correspondence from the Harrington Group, consultant to the JAAC, be received and the flag be raised for the week of December 2nd to 6th, 2019, and the request to proclaim United Nations International Day of People with Disabilities Day on December 3rd, 2019 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. And we'll be there tomorrow at 1 p.m. to raise the flag.
flag area there, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, on the newly landscaped flag area. Looks really good. They put it together last week.
Looks great, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the correspondence from the District School Board of Niagara with reference to the naming of the new secondary school in Grinsby area be received. And it's being called the West Niagara Secondary School. So I'm happy with that name. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that the correspondence from the Region of Niagara with reference to on-demand transit pilot authorization simulation results be received. All in favor? Oh, Councillor Bothwell, you'd like to comment?
I don't know if Councillor Furtick can answer some of these questions, or if you can take them back. I think what I read in there was that part of the resolution is that they will confirm the partnership with the municipalities and the service parameters for the April 2020 deployment, and that there was some commitment of funding from directly from municipalities. They were talking about currently in 2019, 1.4% was a separate transit levy, and that there's going to be another 1.3% to the levy in order to bring this via expansion on-demand transit out to West Niagara, which is Grimsby. I'm wondering if we can have a presentation from the regional staff on it. I don't think, unless I've missed it, that would be wonderful, because I think they've come to a couple of other municipalities. Thank you.
I think the CAO can answer that for you, Councillor Bothwell.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Bothwell, yes, they're coming on December 16th, part of the regional presentation that Councillor Furtick will be doing with Matt. Okay.
Excellent. I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that the correspondence from the Region of Niagara with reference to on-demand transit pilot authorization simulation results be received. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the correspondence from the Region of Niagara Natural Environment Work Program, Phases 2 and 3, mapping and watershed planning discussion papers and comprehensive background study be received. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the correspondence from the Region of Niagara with reference to analysis of Niagara Region's role in tourism be received. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 19-104 and 19-105, and that be read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. Next up, before we go into close, we'll have new business. Any new business? Councillor Bain.
Excuse me. Okay, first of all, I want to touch on last Friday evening, myself and Councillor Cadwell and our wives went downtown for the Friday night DIA special openings. There wasn't a lot of people out there, so I just want to make people aware that the DIA is putting on a special extended hours on Friday night for the next three next Friday nights. And including this Friday, they'll have a horse and buggy ride down there as well. The night before this, Thursday night, is Ladies' Night downtown. And I want to tell you, quite honestly, we got to walk up and down the, between Christie and Ontario, and we went up Mountain Street to Wicked Things. And there's a lot of great stores down there. We did a lot of Christmas shopping. So it's, I would encourage people to shop Grimsby first. I know sometimes we think we have to go out of town to find great stores, but I have to be honest, I was very impressed with the amount of items that we were able to find doing the shopping. Some very interesting and unique stuff. There's one store that actually sells items that if you buy one of the items, they're T-shirts and that type of thing, the company that makes the product will plant 10 trees. So there's a lot of very unique things. I want to touch on, very quickly, I want to pick up on what Kurt said earlier about the Grimsby Power people. We were kept informed when the power went out, and I want to acknowledge not only the Grimsby Power employees that worked up until 6 a.m., also our firefighters. At one point, we had 90% of our fire department out there helping, and the public works staff as well. We have to recognize all of them. They all did a great job during the power failure. I believe Councillor Frake acknowledged this earlier. I just want to bring it up quickly. I want to take a moment to congratulate my fellow councillors on the excellent work. We've done a heck of a lot over the past year, and we have a lot to be proud of. So it's just, I think this council has done more in this year, I think, than most councils do in their whole term. We've had tons of meetings, and we've done so many things, and I say congratulations to us all. I just want to mention about the budget. I just want to do a little education thing here, and I'm going to mention this every week or every council meeting between now and the end of February, whenever we do the budget. As we go forward and do our budget, this council has been very, very responsible, and I think we will continue with that. But I want to make it very, very clear to the people that are listening and to the local papers when you print this, that every 1% that we raise this town's taxes actually only works out to a 0.25% increase in your overall tax bill. The reason I say that is, for example, and I'm just going to pick a high number, I'm going to say 10%. If this council were to come back with a 10% budget increase, it's actually only 2.5% on your overall tax bill. And when you consider things like that, people say we don't want any tax increases, then I would ask you to bring me in a signed petition from everyone in the town telling me which services you're willing to give up. Because there's cost of living alone that comes into things. We have to pay our staff cost of living. We have to pay cost of living on all kinds of increases. So I know in the past, 1 year in an election year, the previous council reduced your tax bills, our tax bills, by 5%. And I'm sure a lot of people thought that was great, you know, that they could reduce it 5%. That 5% alone has cost this town over $4 million a year in lost revenue. So it may have looked good on an election paper, but it wasn't a realistic thing to do. And it was against staff advice. On a totally different topic, I want to, as we've just discussed, we've got this new Green Committee, and I'm really pleased with what I've seen of the people and everybody's input so far. And I'm just going to encourage people that, I can't say too much, but I'm going to encourage people to plant trees. We have a special thing coming up, and I'll leave that to Director Sweeney to tell us when she is ready to tell us about it. So, and one other thing I learned recently, and is that a lot of times when we're in a rush, and I used to do it myself, I often try to carry a reusable bottle with me, but we've got to really cut down on the amount of plastic that we're using. When you go into a store and you pay $2 or $1.50, whatever, for a bottle of water, a lot of the times you're actually just buying tap water, because a lot of these waters are just taken from our tap and put into plastic bottles and then sold to us. Those bottles oftentimes, a lot of times, will end up in landfill or in the ocean or in the lakes or the rivers, whatever. So please just consider that. We've really got to start taking care of our community. I had somebody tell me recently that a lot of our streams and stuff are getting very cluttered. So please just stay on top of that. And on that particular note, I have a bracelet on my wrist I got at Mrs. Greenway's on Main Street, and it's from a group called 4 Oceans, the number 4 and then Ocean. Every bracelet you buy, they will take 1 pound of garbage out of the ocean or coastlines or whatever else. They're a fantastic group started by 2 surfers. I'll let you research them. I've recently researched them over the past couple of months. They're fantastic. I think, sorry, one other point on the budget thing. I was going to say, this town's been starved for 20 years, so I hope that this year we can kind of balance things out and move forward from that. Past councils had other priorities, and I think this town really needs to be taken seriously. The last thing I want to say is there's been some comments made recently, and I just want to point it out. as I said, this council as a whole has done a fantastic job in the past year. And I want to say that I personally, and I'm only speaking on my own behalf, I won't speak on behalf of council when I say this, but I have to thank Mr. Schlang for the work that he's done. He is taking this town forward. Whether you agree with what he's doing or not, I just want to tell you, I personally support him, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to drag this town into the 21st century. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Jordan. Just two things. And I want to thank you last Monday at your information night for allowing me to speak about the Grinsby Diamond, and I did give a bit of a brief update, but I received more information just this past Wednesday that our CIO received a call from Calvin Curtis, who is one of the regional directors at the MTO, and he is confirming red flashing lights will be installed about the stop signs at the Grimsby Diamond intersections. Every effort possible to do this ASAP, as early as the end of the year, but no later than the Q1 of 2020, which will be the end of March. They also committed to work with our engineering team on other improvement, and will be sending a team of traffic engineers to meet with our staff no later than January of 2022. I tell you, this just it just gives me chills down my spine. I want to thank Sam Osterhoff. I want to thank our CAO, Harry Schlang. I want to thank Grimsby Council, because you folks have been asking me, and you guys have been always, how's it going? How's it going? So thank you very much to, hey, we're not all the way there yet, but we will get there. And I also want to thank Grimsby Fire Department and the Grimsby Niagara Regional Police, our Staff Sergeant Rome. I had a great meeting with him, and he really gave me some good ideas too. So just an update on that. Again, really looking forward to that moving forward. It's the time of year now. Grimsby Christmas Light Contest is on now. It's Trevor, our recreation coordinator, has done a bang-up job getting this thing started again, or keeping the lights going, I should say. When Sarah used to do it, and we initiated this a number of years ago. But I just want to read a bit of the Coles Notes versions to that. Grimsby Christmas Light Contest. Nominations are now open and can be completed at www.grimsby.ca, our website. You must be a Grimsby resident. Nomination deadline closes December 12th, which is a Thursday at 4:30. Winners announced on Monday, December 16th. And there will be 3 winners, and we have some great sponsors again who've been with us, I think, almost day one, Sarah, pretty well, eh? These 3 sponsors, Rona Grimsby, Canadian Tire Grimsby, and Todd Fryer of Century 21 Real Estate Broker. Yeah. And that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you through the mayor. Just wanted to say I had the opportunity to go to the GPI breakfast last week. Councillor Frake, Councillor Cadwell, and our CEO, Harry Schlang, were also in attendance. It was a great event. Anytime you have an opportunity to talk to the individuals that run the organization, take care of our power, and as you can see, obviously yesterday it was much appreciated, them taking care of our power, is a great opportunity. I also wanted just to remind everyone the Santa Claus Parade is this Saturday. And also on Wednesday this week is also the Chamber Award ceremony. I'm not sure if there's any tickets still available, but if you want to go on the website and check it out, anytime that we have an opportunity to go and show support for our local businesses, I think it's a great thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Bothwell.
Just to add to all the other wonderful things that are happening in town, I don't know if somebody's already captured it, but the town tree lighting here on Friday. Friday, December the 6th at 6 p.m. Right out here in front of Town Hall at our wonderful tree that has some awesome decorations out in front of it right now. There will be the lighting. Blessed Trinity will be singing carols, and there was refreshments provided by Tim Hortons and available in Town Hall afterwards. So I would encourage the community to come out and enjoy it. It's always a great evening as well, and that's Friday, December 6th. One other quick thing, again, on the Grimsby Green theme and climate change, the Niagara region has got a call out right now for comments on climate change discussion paper for the new Niagara official plan. And it's open for comments until December 31st. The climate change discussion paper explores recent research on climate change, impacts in Niagara, how land use planning relates to climate change adaptation and mitigation, provincial requirements to integrate climate change into official plans, and this background information will help to inform the development of options and recommendations in the next phase of the project. So they're inviting people to review the paper and respond to the discussion questions online. So if you have an opportunity to go on the Niagara Region website, and comment on that. I will post it on my Facebook page as well, and if anyone's interested in getting that information, please reach out to me and I will provide that link. Thank you.
All right, any other further business? Councillor Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we are all aware, the Roma conference is coming up in January. I'm not sure who on council has actually signed up for that. Could I find out? Who signed up for the Roma conference? Kevin? For the Roma conference. Who's going? Can I ask who's going? Okay.
If we get delegations.
Yeah. Anyway, so I realized last night I was reading some of the Roma documentation, and today was the deadline for delegations. I know that usually Councillor Ritchie is on the ball on that one, but anyways, so we might have too many people on the ball here. Anyway, so I took the liberty last night to put through 3 requests for delegations. One was under the Ministry of Transportation, and there's a number of things I put in the form. One was a general update on the mid to long-term plan for roads and highway transportation throughout Niagara region and the GTHA. A Grimsby Metrolinx update. I wanted to know I think we need to know what's happening with the QEW and any of the bridge expansion going forward. I had the traffic diamond on there as well, but I wasn't aware you had been so far ahead on that one. And then, of course, there's the escarpment crossing, east-west and south-north, i.e. the Bartlett extension. So that was what I filed under transportation. Under economic development, I noted that Grimsby needs to decrease the residential tax burden, so more commercial and industrial taxes are needed. And assistance and guidance to attract more commercial and industrial investments. Grimsby needs to be on the front line of attracting investment and trade, not only through NR, which is Niagara region. How do we access more grants and subsidies to attract and encourage small business enterprise? This might be something that our GDAC guys might want to, that would probably be your delegation, I would think. Then under municipal affairs and housing, I suggested that we talk about land use planning, waterfront protection and access, affordable housing and homelessness, which is a big focus on here in this region right now, and Grimsby's challenge to re-intensification and greenbelt protection, and any assistance we can get on grants. So it was late last night. I didn't know exactly what, as a council, we wanted to put in there, so I think I covered most of the bases. And I believe that our CAO also last night did something as well, so I'll turn it over to him now.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, so we also, and we've been working with Ron Tripp, the CAO of Niagara Region on the escarpment crossing. We recognize that that's a joint effort with Niagara West as well as the region. So all four CAOs have applied for that. So Councillor Fordick, I'm sorry, there's going to be a lot of requests on the escarpment crossing, but we'll rearrange who goes to the meeting. We can't bombard the ministers if we meet with them. And the other one was with Minister of Infrastructure to plant some of the seeds on our application of the Peach King expansion. So hopefully we get that as well. So we're going to hear it 1 week before. I'm not sure if Councillor Fake requests will come through the clerk. It usually does. So I'll see, we'll know when we get those delegations and make sure everybody knows, including Councillor Furtick at the region. So we'll make sure that gets out. Thank you.
Any other further new business? I have a couple of my own. Councillor Furtick has a piece of new business. Welcome, Councillor Furtick.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. Through to the general public,
under new business. The Grimsby Rotary Thursday night is having their Fantasy of Trees. We got 43 trees, and it is fabulous. So I encourage you to go and get a little bit of Christmas spirit and take a couple of dollars with you and put your little tabs in looking at possibility of winning a tree. So get out because it's going to be closing on Sunday, which is the day after the Santa Claus parade. So get out there, please, and support the Grimsby Rotary. Thanks, Mayor, for letting me tell you about it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Furtick. Seeing no other further new business, I have a couple of items myself. I'd just like to thank the Garden Club for decorating the Christmas tree in the foyer. What an excellent job. They do it every year. And just coming up on Parade Day, from 9 till 1 is the Grinsby Farmers Christmas Market. So that's at the Grinsby Activity Center from 9 till 1 on Saturday before the parade. So it's full of Christmas, there's Christmas gifts and stuff. Thank you. Councillor Vardy?
Yes, was that the Livingston Activity Center? Thank you.
And now, before we move into closed session, I'll just let everyone know when our next meeting is. Next meeting is Monday, December 16th, 2019 at 7 p.m. That'll be our last meeting of the year. Thank you and good night. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that council meet in closed session under Section 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Report DRS 19-53 Selection Committee recommendations for the Grinsby Green Advisory Committee. All in favor to move into closed? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that confidential closed report DRS 1953 be received and the Council of the Town of Grinsby appoint the 8 community members recommended therein to the Grinsby Green Advisory Committee. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 19-104 and 19-105 read a first time, now be read a second and third time and finally passed, and the mayor and town clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of council to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor? That's carried. Meeting is adjourned.